So this video is going to be looking at the different types of political ideology that you need to know for GCSE history. This is useful for your Nazi Germany topic because we'll be looking at fascism and communism. But most importantly, I think this is a really essential video if you're wanting to revise the Cold War topic, because it will help you understand the difference between capitalism and communism, which is the basis for the Cold War. So, as I said, we're going to be having a look at capitalism, communism and fascism. Now, of these, I think that you will need capitalism and communism for your Cold War topic, and you will definitely need fascism for Nazi Germany and an understanding of communism when you look at political opposition to the Nazis. Okay, so firstly we're going to be having a look at capitalism. Now the idea behind capitalism is, most capitalist countries have free and fair elections, so it's linked to democracy, and so everybody gets a vote, everyone has a say, and who is going to run the government. A capitalist society is based on economic freedom, something called the free market. This means that businesses are privately owned by individuals, and how well they do or don't do is supposed to be up to the people running them. Central to that is this whole idea of a laissez-faire government, which means laissez-faire means that the government doesn't get involved in any of the running of businesses or what businesses go under and what do well. They stay out of it. This is also true for a lot of the social things. So in a capitalist country like America, which is a very strong example of capitalism, houses are owned by individuals, and the government doesn't see it as its job to get involved in people's personal affairs. As I said, America is the example of this that we will be talking about. One thing to be aware of is that it can lead to big gaps in wealth. So you can be very, very rich, but also very, very poor in a capitalist society. And so it has something called social inequality. It's one of the things that you can find in a capitalist society. On the complete polar opposite, you have communism. Now, rather than having a laissez-faire attitude to industry, what communist governments want to do is get really, really involved in business. And so they have something called state-planned industry. So the state looks at what the country needs, and so it might be that they need lots of coal and steel, and so they set up loads and loads and loads of factories to make them, and the government owns those factories. They're not run by private companies. Rather than having that uncertainty of the free market, you have a structured, planned industry that's led and designed by the government. So rather than keeping all the wealth to themselves, people who are richer, well, there aren't people who are richer, so rather than having a very rich factory owner, like you might have in a capitalist society, the government owns all the factories, and so the wealth is distributed out between the workers. One major difference between capitalist societies and communist societies is that communists don't have any elections. They have one government who are chosen for them. But there are lots of benefits, some people would say, to a communist society, such as housing being provided for you and social inequality. Now, one example of a negative aspect of communist society is this idea of controlling the media. And there's lots of bad things that can happen to people who go against this one communist government. An example of a communist government would be Russia during the Cold War. Finally, we have fascism. Now, the example that you can see on the top here is obviously the Nazis, and so this is the fascist government that you look at GCSE. Now, fascism is based on traditional values, so Hitler, as the leader of Germany, wanted to bring back traditional German values, German music, German culture, lots of children, all those kind of things, like women staying at home. Like, these traditional German values were a big part of how the fascists sold themselves to the German people. They are very anti-communist. They're much more in line with the capitalist slide that you've just seen than the communist slide. They're very anti-communist. But like communists, they don't have elections. Instead, you have one dictator, Hitler, who is in charge of the lot. Fascism is really closely linked to being very good at spreading propaganda. So Nazis use symbolism in their work, and so you can see two examples in this picture here. This is the Hitler Youth. So you can see the swastika, which is a huge symbol for the Nazis, and surely you recognise it. And then obviously individuals, so Hitler being the cult leader of the country. So fascism and their idea of having symbols to represent parts of like traditional values is a really important thing to remember. Now, another thing that fascists tend to do is that they blame a country's problems on one particular ethnicity, which I think I've spelt wrong there, or a religious group. So in the example of the Nazis, it's the Jews. So why do I need to know this at GCSE, and how does this link to my exam? Well, for your Cold War topic, it is essential. If you are unsure about what's in this video, you need to go and see your teacher, or you need to come and ask me what capitalism and communism mean, because you would probably get a 4-mark question that says describe the differences between the two, or if you're being asked an essay question such as who was to blame for the Cold War, or what were the main reasons for the start of the Cold War, you need to be able to explain how America and Russia, the USA and the USSR were never ever going to work well together because of their ideological differences. It's also really important in understanding the reasons why the Nazis felt they had to eradicate all the communists, get rid of all the communists in Germany, and why those two groups had such a big problem with each other. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about this, then come and see me or go and see your teacher. Have a look on the 4-mark questions videos that are going to keep popping up on here. And if you want to have a practice of an ideologies question, so if you want to have a practice of an ideologies question, then I'm going to pop a couple here on the screen. Okay, so here they are. My 4-mark questions are: describe the differences between capitalism and communism. And my 4-mark question for the Nazis is: how did the Nazis try to eradicate communism in Germany? If you're going to attempt these now, please make sure that you do time yourself. Give yourself no more than 4 minutes so you can get into real exam time practice, and pass them over to your teacher, who will mark them for you. Thank you.